So again, once again, good morning to everyone. I'm glad it's a glorious day. I hope you're comfortable where you are. Above all, I hope you're safe. We have an amazing group of panelists and an amazing, obviously, all our participants. Thank you for lurking in the background, but don't be lurking there. We want you to actually participate in many ways as possible. You can even start with your chat and your questions. It is really, again, I was using the phrase this as we were talking earlier with our panelists, a la mano. A la mano is just really relaxed, okay? You're amongst friends, and the creativity, a new world is exactly what it is. I'm going to put up the poll as we speak, and please take part of the poll. The poll is vital because we want to know who's in the background there so that we can actually direct the information correctly. The information is vital. That's what we're here for. We're these kind panelists and well seasoned in every sense of the word have been kind enough to share their. Oh, who's laughing? Someone one of the panelists is laughing. I heard that. Was that you, Jaki? Come on.
Yeah, I don't know whether season's another word for old, but we can take it. We can take it.
No, that means you've got pepperoncino. Pepperoncino is the hot, spicy stuff that we need in life. Okay, Okay, well, with all ado, let's talk about our guests. Heba, could you be so kind and put up the poll? So we have, today is actually special. We're talking about gentlemen first. So ladies, you're just going to have to hold your horses. So we've got of our guest, John, can you actually just talk for a quick second so your screen will come live?
Hi
just
there.
Say hello. Hi. Okay. So John Brash is the CEO and founder of Brash Group. And I was actually telling John before, it's one of those words I love. So for all you English-speaking people know what Brash is, I think this is going to hold true. He is a creative pioneer who has been helping companies to transform places and products through innovative business. So I'm just going to take one more second and read a little bit more about what's happening here, and then I'm going to put the poll up. So brand lifestyle solutions for more than 30 years. He has worked on some of the world's leading brands in the UAE, Russia, London, Sydney, India, and Saudi, advising governments, tourism boards, private equity firms, developers, and owners to ensure solutions are relevant, doable, and sustainable. I think relevant, doable, and sustainable are like the key words here. What do you think about that, John? So we're just going to I have to have Heba become the host because that's how she gets the poll up there. Okay, there we go. The poll is coming up there. So John, so you have a lot of air miles. You've been living here for how long?
I think off and on for probably about 17 years. So yeah, quite a time.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, that's fantastic.
Seeing the flow of up and down.
That's right. So you're one of those people that are able to ride the wave, as I say. Okay. So you're basically hanging 10 on your surfboard, and you're just going the full mile. Well, so ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, the poll is in progress. Actually, our panelists, if you want to actually answer the poll yourself, it is actually an honesty type of thing. So let's see what we've got. It's really easy. All right, perfect. So I'm going to take another few seconds, if you don't mind, while they're answering the poll, since we've got the ladies. We've got two lovely, amazing ladies here today. We've got Jaki. Jaki, do you mind just saying hello quickly so your screen will pop up?
Hello, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning. So we've got British-born Canadian convert Jaki Ellenby, has over 25 years of marketing and communication leadership experience with some of the most creative brands in the world, including Disney, Apple, and Cirque du Soleil. Meglio Cirque du Soleil. What? Meglio, that was my Italian. Better than Cirque du Soleil? What is there? Jaki has moved to the UAE in 2014 to head up the marketing for theme parks on Yas Island. Then after a brief foray in the world of retail, the Dubai Mall, big place, she returned to her first love of leisure and entertainment with one of the most visited theme parks in the world, Global Village. Oh, that is quite a feat. Global Village. I've had the pleasure of going there. That's actually the first time this year, and I must admit that is quite the place. Okay, so did you want to already see the results before I get to Megan, or can I go ahead and introduce you, Megan? Would that be fine?
Sure.
Okay, good morning, Megan. So
Good
this is
morning.
good, there she is. So Megan French-Ritsch, okay, is a marketing strategist and consultant, has worked with some of the world's most remarkable brands, including BMW, Emirates, Yas Island, Dubai Tourism Expo, Neom, and the Waldorf. She's the founder of two Mark Tech companies servicing the global meeting and events and health wellness industries. A mother to twins. Oh my goodness, you are a busy lady that just have twins, is doubling it the fun in every way. And she is focused on trying to scale and grow her businesses as a means to do good in the world. And that's one of my favorite features of you, by the way. A lifelong learner. She is currently studying digital disruption at Oxford and is planning to enroll in a PhD program by year end. With twins. Holy moly, Batman. Need I say more? You are a very mover and a shaker. All of you are. This is going to be quite an exciting webinar today. Oh, sorry. That was probably a little long-winded on my part, because what you're really waiting for are these three amazing people to help us get our groove on. Would you like to see the poll results? Heba, is there enough room there now already for the poll results? Have we got a good quantity? Can we put them in? There you go. Can you, Jackie, Megan, and John, can you see the poll results? Would you like me to read it for you?
No, we can see them.
Almost split 50-50.
Yeah.
Oh.
Nobody said no. That's great.
Yeah, I'm actually very excited about that. I'm very excited about that. All right. Well, now that we have a little bit of data, can I start by asking you, Jaki? Okay. We just asked our audience if they they thought themselves to be creative. Okay. So that was interesting because we saw the poll. How do you define creativity? And how would you answer that question for yourself?
Thanks, Diana. Thanks for inviting us this morning as well. I think this is such an important topic, especially at the moment. But in general, it's an important topic. I actually answered that ish, and that's because I've never really gotten over myself. I come from a very creative family. My mother was an art teacher. My father was an engineer, but he invented things. He actually invented the first digital clock in the world. And one of my brothers is a chef. The other one's a sculptor. So I come from a super creative family, which didn't make me creative. In fact, I consider myself pretty much a creative failure growing up. It was kind of like I didn't get that creative gene, the DNA, the creative DNA, which was a problem for me growing up. And of course, I blamed my mother because, you know, when you're 13, everything is your mother's fault. And she used to say to me, I guess she was a teacher, so she was encouraging. And she used to say, of course you're creative. You know, it's 5% inspiration and 95% perspiration, which she used to say to me to try and encourage me to just work at it. It didn't work because I sort of said, if I don't have the 5%, the 95% is a waste of time. So I didn't do the 95%. And all that to say is that, you know, so many people don't think they're creative. And our poll is actually kind of interesting because 50% said ish and 50% more or less said yes, which is way above world average. So there's been research done. Yeah, there's been research done. And 25% of people consider themselves creative, which
25, wow.
That 75% of the world don't consider themselves creative, which I think is astonishing and terribly sad in a lot of ways.
So do I. I'm throwing in a self question here, okay? as an example, do you think that maybe 30 years ago, when we had less technology, people thought themselves more creative?
I think it's a way, you know, because when I was growing up, we didn't have so much technology, and you know, I didn't think myself that creative either. I think it's a way of thinking. There's a wonderful man called Sir Ken Robinson. If you haven't heard him speak, I strongly recommend him. He's an educator. He's very funny, and a very thoughtful man. And he talks about creativity in the education system. And one of the things he says is there's not a lot that differentiates humans from the rest of sort of organic life on the planet. But one of the things is we have this superpower. And I think that's a very interesting concept. And the superpower is imagination. And imagination is really, he defines this as a power to bring to mind something that isn't actually there. It's not physically there. Mm. And that creativity is simply using your imagination. And what he says is that there isn't any creative DNA. Imagination kind of comes with the kit. It's like, you know, like IKEA furniture, you know, you get that little Allen key. And I don't know whether you've noticed, but if you buy IKEA furniture, whatever it is, it comes with the Allen key. Whether or not you need the Allen key, it just comes with the kit. And imagination is the same. You have it. And the problem is trying to get people to recognize connecting with that. And I think it's terribly important that we nurture that in not only in our businesses, but also in our homes and in our schools. And I was actually, John and I were talking yesterday, and he's kind of got the inverse thing. He's the kind of creative parent, and he was talking about his kids. And I don't know whether you want to add anything to this sort of whole, are you creative thing?
Oh, yeah, that actually sounds, John. Yeah, that would be great. Thank you so much.
As Jaki and I were chatting yesterday about it, it's quite interesting that my kids, I think because I obviously was good at drawing, therefore I was creative. And that is how I think a lot of traditional schools look at it. If you're good at art, you can draw or you can screen print. But that's not really necessarily creativity. It means that you have an ability to be able to craft something. And I think that the challenge that my kids had is they were far sharper than I are intellectually and with economics and maths, incredible. And like A star for their A-level maths, both of them that have gone through it yet. You know, me, I did arithmetic, so it's quite incredible how they do it all. But recently they've started painting because they're at home, so they've got less time, so they've ordered online painting. So hopefully they'll get there. But it's a really interesting thing. I've always struggled with this whole notion of creativity as a word, because a lot of people do get put off by it because they think it is just something that people that can draw. Creativity is how your mind works, and whether it's solving problems, it could be accountancy, you know, it could be banking, it could be design, the core businesses in there, it could be languages in there. It shouldn't be defined in that certain traditional way that some schools call it. The imagination is a really interesting thing. I heard a story which is true, that in when they're looking for pilots, like that are, you know, combat pilots, they look for people that lack imagination, because they say that people that lack imagination do not think about themselves being upside down or doing things. They don't see what the consequence might be. They just compute and do. And that's quite an interesting thing. I can't go on a roller coaster. I have never been on a roller coaster in my life. I have never taken my kids on a roller because I think I'm going to die. Right? I genuinely think I'm going to die. And I know it seems crazy.
My hands are sweating. My hands are sweating. I used to be able to, and I can't do it any longer.
Even as a kid, I couldn't, because I would foresee about 12 things that would happen. And that's how my mind works. So my mind is always a scramble. Let's not go into my mind, actually. But it's a really interesting thing. And I think what's great from the feedback from the listeners today is the fact that the majority of people believe that they can think creatively. And I think that's really, really important. And in times like this, with COVID, I think the future is going to be problem solving, seeing things that others don't, looking at your existing position and working out how you can make it better, whether it's through technology or whatever. And I think just now, innovation in technology and creativity is really going to be the future. And I think that's where the focus really should be.
Well, I think that's fantastic. And I think maybe my personal question that I put up was probably incorrect in the sense that I think that technology can be creative. Like, when I was saying to you, Jaki, please excuse, I don't want to think that technology isn't creative and then art and painting is creative. I think it's everything that you look at and how you perceive it, whether it's the roller coaster or not, can be creative. Your case is a little bit creative, scary, but it's creative, the roller coaster part. What about you, Megan? Do you have anything you'd like to add on that too, regarding your point of view?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I agree with the points that John was making. You know, for me, creativity is the capacity to develop ideas, to solve problems, and to be able to take advantage of opportunities, whether that be at a company level or at an individual level, like Jaki said. I don't think that creativity is art. I don't think it's design. And I don't think that it's the sole preserver of geniuses. You know, a lot of us have a very one-dimensional view of creativity. And as Jaki and John and I were speaking yesterday, you know, I think creativity is very multifaceted. It's like a diamond. There's many dimensions to it. For me, it's about capacity. I think creativity is a capacity. It's something that we can all learn to use more effectively. It allows us to develop ideas, to solve problems in different ways, you know, and to capture opportunities. And every job requires creativity. I mean, every trade, every occupation, every role, you know, will always rely on new ideas to be able to solve problems and to maximize opportunities. And I think that creativity will be key to securing the jobs of the future. In fact, recently I was reading the World Economic Forum Future of Jobs report, which highlighted that the top 3 skills needed in 2020 and beyond will in fact be complex problem solving, critical thinking, and creativity. So super important.
Oh, exactly. Totally agree with you on that, because actually another one of the reports I was reading was talking about, they put creativity and adaptability, flexibility in there. So those are words that can maybe a little bit intertwine. You might not find yourself the creative as what we might think of design wise, but you be adaptable and flexible, and this will help. So in the light of this, John, of COVID-19 in the world and our audience here today, have more times on their hands to think about life, their business, their futures. And many will question what they've been doing and what they want to do moving forward. What do you think? What do you have to say about that?
Well, I think probably that it's the first time in my generation, or the majority of people's generation, that they've probably had so much reflective time. You know, I think people who have had reflective time tends to be on maybe a summer holiday or a vacation or something like that. And it's really interesting how people have been using technology to really create sort of self-creativity. They've got a chance to really look at themselves, look at their lives. And there's a lot of self-improvement that's been going on, a lot of online courses, whether that's cooking, whether that's learning a language, whether it's looking after themselves from a wellness perspective. And there's been a lot of, you know, really positive things that have come out of this that I think will probably change the world and change the way that people will actually live. People want to improve themselves, and I think that's really, really important. I think there's a statistic that Yale University have this course called The Science of Well-Being, and 200.
I took that.
Well, there you are. So 298% increase. And they had 500,000 people sign up in March, 500,000 people. And these are staggering statistics here. So the whole notion of online I think 85% is another figure of increase over all these different sort of language schools that are happening. And that's wonderful, because it means that people are actually using this time effectively to do that and prepare themselves for the future in there. I think it's really interesting also, because people have time to start thinking about their employment or their business, or can they start a new business? So I think this is going to, within this researching, people are researching different businesses. So maybe this will create a whole bunch of new young and older entrepreneurs that never thought about setting up a business. People taking the control of their lives back now. So I think that that's going to be a really interesting one in there. I mean, if you look at sort of some startup brands that were happening, I was thinking, you know, I did a little bit of research on the sort of Canadian sort of scape in there, and you imagine you have people in the audience. Is it poutine crackers, that you do something with poutine, you know, from home, and create a business around that? Do you know?
Yay.
You reinvent something, you know, that doesn't exist before. This is the time to do it, because people are looking for homegrown. And I think that people are after authenticity as well, that we'll probably talk about later. But I think there is a people believe and want to believe in startups, because there's a genuineness about them that I think people are really warming to now.
Yeah, I think what you have to say is absolutely phenomenal, because this extra time has maybe made us look at the idea of remote working as not a homework, or working home is not a four-letter word, home working. It gives you another more positive view on it. And I think that is so important it's perfect for everyone. You could go take the courses that are available, or in this case, you can be part of a webinar, you can participate, you can be a panelist, you can take some time where you can actually enrich yourself. So Megan, can I ask you another?
Diana, did you mean to drop the word enrich yourself in there? Oh, I like that, Diana. Can I just add something to that?
Of course you can. I would love you to.
Yeah, you know, they're all such great points. For me, what I think is really important about everybody staying at home is it's kind of leveled the playing field. You know, it's made us realize, like, who was it? Martin Luther King, I think, said all those years ago, that we're one and the same. It doesn't matter if you're a CEO like John Brash, you know, or if you're a consultant like Megan French, or if you're, you know, head of marketing like Jaki. We're all the same, because we're all human beings. We're all staying at home right now. We're all having to adapt to this new world, you know, and I think this is making people reprioritize, you know, and realize what's important in life, you know. So I think that's important to mention. It's made everybody realize that it doesn't matter where you are actually in your career or in life, or, you know, there's so many people that, particularly with the social media world, that look at other people and have a level of envy about them. I think this has just brought it back home to basics. You know, at the end of the day, we're one and the same. We all want the same thing out of life.
Yeah, I totally agree. But I do want to add something, and I'm actually, it's a compliment to our panelists today, because when we actually had the luck of reaching out to Megan at the beginning, and then Megan reached out to John and Jaki, it's so amazing. People are just ready to give back, and again, I have goosebumps, because I really do believe this is a time where we can make a difference to everyone. And the webinar idea is shortening this physical distancing. We're here having a chat like if we've had chats forever, which is amazing. We can get down to the basics. And so please, anyone that's out there participating right now, you have a question or something like that, put it already up onto the questions there, because we will go in and go ahead and answer them. But actually, you know, Megan, I do actually want to ask you something else. Many of our members are business owners just like you. What are the areas from a creative marketing perspective that you're focusing your efforts on just till the end of, let's say, this year, 2020? You have a particular focus?
Well, you know, I mean, as this global crisis evolves by the day, this moment presents opportunities and certainly many challenges as well for brands. And the backdrop, you know, to my priorities is that we're now living in an environment where consumer trust has deteriorated considerably, you know, and this is already exacerbated by disruption. Consumers have very little faith that systems, you know, economies, particularly the healthcare system, will work as they need it to. So we're all looking for we have this deep desire, this innate desire for comfort and security in our lives, you know, as part of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And I think as consumers, we want to create protection and a sheltered environment. It's this concept almost of spiritual cocooning, which also goes back to the point John made earlier about, you know, so many people signing up for this health and wellness program. And I think that backdrop of, you know, this sort of long simmering yet newly urgent environment, this is where, you know, as marketers and brand experts, that we can really step up. For me, personally, in our businesses, you know, the areas of focus for me are understanding how we can better solve for specific consumer quandaries. You know, how can we adapt our marketing programs and messaging to the changing consumer context? How can we reorient or pivot to make sure that our products and services are actually heartening people in a time of panic? You know, I think right now it's really important for all companies, for all marketers, for all brands, not to be bombarding people, consumers, with information, particularly information that is not right for the time. You know, one of the things that we're looking at personally with our businesses is how can we better achieve cost optimization on our marketing operations? And I think that, you know, to the point earlier, that now we have some time, you know, where we have more downtime because we're not having to get dressed and drive to the office and all the rest of it. And of course, in the current landscape, it's extremely important for businesses to be understanding, you know, where they can evaluate their people and their partners and their processes and technologies to be able to determine, for us specifically, you know, we're looking at, well, what can we eliminate? What can we simplify? What can we better utilize? What can we standardize or centralize? You know, this is the time. And then the other priority for us personally, which I think is probably the same for all companies, is, you know, how do we need to adjust our marketing spend and plans to the current landscape of the global instability, you know? So it's about trying to pivot, you know, to be appropriate for people in this changing world. And that requires a lot of creativity, you know, in many different levels. Would anybody like to add to that? Maybe Jaki or John would like to add to that in terms of priorities for their business, or what, you know, Jaki's focusing on.
Yeah, I mean, we're very lucky because in a lot of ways, because we did close early, but we closed a month early, and so this time in our kind of life cycle, if you like, or in our season cycle, we would be pretty much hunkered down anyway. So doing it from home. So we're kind of preparing it, but our industry is hugely affected. I mean, I think everybody knows that the Disney parks have closed for the first time in their history. So, you know, obviously there's a lot of people in our industry that are having to be agile and having to be creative and having to look at different scenarios, because we know that the world will open up for sure. You know, we know that we will be opening in October, but we don't know what state that's going to be. Is there still going to be social distancing? Is there still going to be, you know, are we going to have to not have concerts because we're not allowed crowds? You know, what will it be? And I think that ensuring that we're doing scenario planning, and I think every company should be doing scenario planning right now. And, you know, scenario A is X, and scenario B is Y, and so that people are thinking of all the different things that could happen. You know, and this is where, for me, imagination comes in again, because in order to imagine in order to do scenarios, you have to imagine what could happen, and there are many scenarios. And I think that's really the way forward, is to think about all of those, and that's certainly what we're doing now in Global Village, and you know, we're also nurturing, actually, to go back to a previous point of John, where I'm quite blessed to be in a company that our HR team have actually looked out courses and leadership training and specific training for every single person in the company. And they've sent them courses and said, you know, why don't you do this right now? Which I think is really important, because, you know, both Megan and John are entrepreneurs. But for those of you who are within companies, who are working for companies, you too can do this type of thing to help people deal with the situation right now, and also help them to be better once we get back, because we're going to have to move really fast once we do get back.
Oh, yeah. Jackie, thank you so much for adding that, because that's exactly what I was thinking as well. I said, it is so important right now that we give people the tools to be able to be ready, or always ready, and always learning. Like you were saying, I think was it exactly? I think is it you, Megan, that you're an ongoing learner or something like that?
Serial learner.
Which, yes, that's the term, and that is fundamental. Don't stop learning. Give people the tools, but also, like you're saying, Jackie, because sometimes people get scared. I've seen, the first time I've asked people to do Zoom a few months ago, because I've been using it for years. It's been out. And the first time, no, I don't want to do it. The second time, no, I don't want to do it. The third time, it's like if they become Zoom king and queen or whatever it is. So give people the tools, help them. You don't know until you know. Don't assume that everyone knows everything, and make them feel comfortable about learning. Okay.
And also give them a bit of encouragement, because, you know, much as I would love to say I was like Megan, I'm not at all like Megan. And, you know, she's a serial learner and she has a thirst for knowledge, and not many people are like that. So I think, you know, giving people a bit of a kick and saying, you know, go do this, rather than sort of expecting them to sort of up and do it themselves, I think is quite an important thing you can do for people. Because, as I say, Megan's quite an extraordinary woman, and not many people like her.
I'll pay you later.
Yeah, no, I was saying the first thing. I mean, off air, I was saying the exact same thing too. Actually, we're going to use one of her formulas for our webinar form. So it is absolutely amazing. And Jackie, you're so right. Just let them try, and if it's not up to your standard, maybe 100%. It doesn't matter, because they probably did an amazing job, and the next time they'll be more motivated to do better, okay, or increase or learn, because if you already stop them and you take over, they'll never learn. So you have to give people the opportunity to learn. So John, maybe would you mind having would you have something you'd like to add to these wonderful comments?
I mean, the great points there, and I concur with all of them. I think, you know, from our perspective, I mean, my advice to any businesses out there, and we probably have all done it, is look at any opportunity that the support, whether it's from your landlords, from the office rent, whether it's banks and getting, you know, holidays on loans, or, you know, credit, where everything is, use them. Even if you don't necessarily need to, use them, because you may need to at some point. And that's the thing. No one quite knows what's going to happen. If they're there, use them. And I think it's just as you know, both Megan and Jackie said, is keep your costs down as much as you possibly can. I was just saying yesterday, I think my April expenses were the lowest in the history of my life, I think, even when I was in my 20s. Because I didn't have any expenses. My mobile bill in the UK was about it. So it's really, really important that the companies manage cash. Cash is king. We always say that for SMEs and private businesses and you know, even employees. But it is really important, because we don't quite know what is going to happen. Even when things open up, we don't quite know what's going to happen. So we need to prepare for potentially this going on for a longer time. So preserving cash. The other thing that we've found is we're actually working more effectively as a business. The London office and the Dubai office are working in harmony, through Zoom, through VPN, and the work is being done at an incredible rate. So our performance has not dipped at all. Our deliverables have not dipped at all, and the team have a commitment to work even harder than they normally do, because they see that we're all in it. Everyone's in it. And this is where I think the grown-up relationship between clients and agencies or individual has to be more honest than ever, in the sense that we'll do your work as best as we can and within the timescale that you've demanded, but please play us and please, keep to the contract. And I think that if one of that breaks, it breaks for everyone. And I think that there has to be mindful grown-up conversations. And also the conversations that you want to continue having with your clients in 12 and 18 months. So it's not to panic, but to be smart and to be sharper than ever before, because things will sort themselves out. And yes, it will be a different world, and it could be a better world in many ways, from an environment perspective, from a humanity perspective. People are talking to each other again. People understand other people's problems again. I mean, mental health has been really high globally. From a discussion perspective in there. You've got poor, university students who are locked up in their halls of residence in maybe a foreign country without family and are struggling. So it's really about understanding that everyone's okay, everyone's safe, employee welfare's clear, but also communicating to them to explain what's happening. We have weekly meetings to say, this is what's happening, this is what's happening next week. These are the positives, these are some negatives, because people kind of need to know what's going on. And I think when you're working remotely, there is always that worry, I might not speak to someone for a day, and what is actually happening out there. So dialogue is absolutely critical as well.
Oh, I can agree with you like 100% there. We too, sorry, this sounds like a plug for the CBC Dubai, but we're trying to also look at what our members and friends could need. So that's why we came about months ago with these webinars, totally complimentary, totally just sometimes just to connect with other people, but in obviously giving them information, which is the most important part that makes them help feel grow and part of a synergy group, etc. But we also look at like you're saying, cash is king. We are looking at also ways to help membership growth, asking our members what they need. So if you can't if you can't pay your membership, we'll find a discount for you with a rebate or something like that. It's to move forward together. It's not just about what we need personally. Sometimes you have to look at the other person. And you were saying you have your meetings. Sometimes if you can actually get a meeting together, like something like this, which has nothing to do with a meeting, just getting some information to other people. I find out how they're actually doing today. How are you doing today in this very moment? So talking about how you're doing today in this very moment, we actually have another poll question. So this is just really easy, and you might take a few seconds of break. Maybe Heba could be so kind to pull up the poll question. Oh my goodness, we're getting downright and personal here. So what is the question? So you can all answer, okay? We're not asking for photos. We're not putting anything up on Instagram, so just go ahead.
Diana?
Yes.
Maybe whilst everybody's answering the poll, we could answer the question that's come in from Eric.
Oh, that's fantastic. Would you like me to read it, or would you like to read it? It's up to you.
I think all panelists can see it. Can you see it?
Okay. Can you guys all see this? Well, we've got a couple of questions. Actually, one is probably just going to wait. Let's see, because it's been dismissed. So you might have to answer the one for America if you've seen it, because it's gone. I'm no longer the host. Actually, Heba, make me the host for a sec. Oh, you can't. Heba, can you see the question still?
Will I read it out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can see it. Oh, I can't. So go ahead. You could. Then someone of you be so kind and get it.
As you've mentioned, creativity drives innovation or problem solving. So given the current crisis, what do you think is the biggest innovation opportunity for brands or companies in the region? And that's from Eric Kuhlman.
Okay. Wow. So who's going to give a go at that? Should I go eeny, meeny, miny, mo?
I nominate
No.
John for that.
I'm
Nominate John.
happy to weigh in, but John, go ahead and start if you like.
Well, look, since I read it out, okay, I've had time to digest it all.
Oh, well, I can. John, I can start if you like, because I had read it. It's up to you.
You start, I'll follow up. I'll concur.
You can or disagree, whatever you feel like. So thank you, Eric, for asking a question. You know, for me, I think that this is really a time for brands to start thinking laterally about particularly this concept of how they can better balance profit with purpose. So I think that, you know, some of the outcomes that, I mean, I'm not a clairvoyant, but I do think what the landscape will look like going forward is that we will have to design products and services that are far more sustainable for humanity, for the planet. And so I think this is, you know, the COVID-19 situation is almost forcing us into that direction. So when you talk about creativity and innovation, you know, I think now is the time for companies. That's also what we're doing with the products that we've got in market. You know, how can we make sure that, of course, we still achieve commercial realities, but we have a better balance between profit with purpose. I think also in the current landscape that brands should be thinking about providing immediate expressions of support and empathy. So it's about really understanding, you know, what's going on in people's heads, in their minds, in their, you know, the nucleus of their family. That's all shifted, as I mentioned before. You know, people's priorities have shifted. I don't think on the other side of this that people will be necessarily as materialistic, let's just say that, as maybe what we've been in the past. I think people will need to consume far less. I think it's important from a creativity and innovation perspective. You know, I'm only speaking from a sales and marketing point of view, business point of view, because that's my background. But I think, you know, prioritizing brand equity through cause marketing, while it's also balancing, you know, sales messaging and achieving commercial realities, I think that there's an opportunity there. I think that for people already in business, it's about preparing for offline closures and considering online alternatives for sales and marketing, or a hybrid of the two. But, you know, in summary to that, one of the things that I've read in the UN reports and the UN policies that are trying to guide governments in what are the best measures they can put in place for economic recovery, one of the things that they really bring through a lot is this concept of buying locally. So I think for micro and small to medium-sized enterprises in the region, which make up 90% of the economy, I think what's really important is to look for opportunities to service the UAE and the region, because I do think that more and more people will opt to buy locally. And so I think there's an opportunity there, you know, and that could be as simple as taking, you know, a product or service idea that is already in the market and making it more efficient, or, you know, creating different levels of efficiencies for people. So that would be my answer in terms of how I think there's an opportunity, you know, in terms of innovation for brands and companies in the region. John, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's spot on from that perspective in there. For me, you know, building onto all of that, I think, as I say, different regions have got different challenges and work in different ways. This region works slightly different than others. I think that what's going to be really significant is, I think CSR is going to move from being a side issue, whereas it is today, into a key issue for all companies and brands. And I think that's going to be one of the biggest transformations in there. So rather than thinking, you know, our corporate social responsibility or our, you know, internal engagement is something that, you know, we need to do now and again to keep the staff happy or the world, I think now that companies will be focusing on purpose. And we can look at that already, some examples from all over the world. We've got Burberry's, you know, repurposing to create medical gowns. We've got L'Oreal switching from cosmetics to hand sanitizers. You know, we've got Pret giving free coffee to NHS workers. These things people will remember. And these are actually trying to understand real people and real people's lives. as opposed to, you know, desirable things. And I think that's really interesting in there. So CSR is going to be absolutely key moving forward. I think training is going to be important. I think all of this way to build upon the fact that now people have had time to research, have had time to think about their lives. They want their organisations and brands to do the same thing. And I think that it's been really interesting. CEOs, I don't really count myself as a CEO, but CEO and billionaires have really been put under the spotlight during this time, never before. That they're the ones that are being seen as being villains. And the heroes are the lorry drivers, are the delivery guys, you know, and that flip as well is going to be really interesting. Will that stay? I think it will. Again, this region is slightly different than other regions, so again, it'd be interesting to see what happens there. But for me, CSR is going to be a big step moving forward. I also think technology now is here to go. There was a good sketch that I saw of who changed your company's digital strategy? Was it the chief executive? No. Was it the chief technology officer? No. It was COVID. So COVID has actually changed the way businesses will work. Okay, not people. It's something that's happened. So it's going to be so interesting. All the platforms that we've got WebEx, we've got, you know, Zoom, we've got all of these things, and it's really interesting that brands are using all these tools. I mean, TikTok now. I thought TikTok was for kids, but mainstream brands are now using TikTok as one of their main advertising. So people are innovating and looking at new ways to do things.
Yeah, I think we had actually, when we were having some pre-discussions about topics and how we would go forward with this webinar, we were talking about even the two toys that I think, one of the toys, both Megan and I want laser printers. We want laser printers, okay? I want a laser printer, so I'm going to put that on my list. But we were talking about technologies out there that actually in Switzerland, a young Italian gentleman with some of his friends, they're doing a whole different ram of work with laser printers. They started the laser printer headbands for the masks here. So, you know, looking at companies that even have laser printers here, maybe we have a lot of architectural companies that have laser printers here. So for anything that might work for the future, you might reach out for that. I'm just thinking, we do have another couple of questions up there from the Q&A. I think we should maybe take a look at it. It says, well, actually, some of them you've actually talked about, but it says we've got, can you please provide personal examples on how you trigger your inner creative thinking? So does somebody have a trigger out there?
I have a couple of things that I could talk to that. You know, because I don't consider myself creative, you've got to have tricks, okay? Because there's very few people in the world that can start with a blank piece of paper. I think that Disney have these deities almost that are called Imagineers, and Imagineers imagine all of the attractions, and they start literally with a blank piece of paper. They have no constraints. They have nothing to kind of constrain them in their thinking. But I don't think most people can function like that. I think that you need, and John can probably talk to this better than me, but I think you need a balance between sort of discipline and freedom. And then I think you need tricks. So things like imitating, taking something from another industry and porting it into your industry. When I went briefly into retail, some of the things that worked best were things that came from theme parks, because nobody in retail had ever done stuff that theme parks do all the time. So had I brought up those ideas in a theme park, everyone would have gone, oh my gosh, everyone does that. But in a retail environment, everyone was like, wow, that's a great idea. And they worked because nobody had seen that in a theme park, in a retail environment. So I think sort of borrowing stuff, I think it was Mark Twain that said there's no such thing as a new idea, just ideas that you do a kaleidoscope. So basically saying that, you know, just look at an old idea from a different angle and it becomes a new idea. And I think that's very true. And I think that's one of the important trips, or taking two ideas and merging them together And so there's actually an agency, it's a Japanese agency, who did a great talk in Cannes Lions that you can probably find, and they talk about creative alchemy, and they give some really good tips about how you can kind of get those creative juices going, if you're not somebody who can just sort of imagine something out of thin air. But I'm sure that John has some other tips that he gives maybe his creative teams even.
Yeah,
Well,
John, yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
No,
I was just going to say we're gonna put the poll answer on, and let's see how creative the answers are before you give those tips away. Let's see what let's see how many pajama people we have there. Okay, what do we got? Okay, we have one literally took it off a minute ago. I love that.
I don't believe this. I do not believe that 47% of the people looking never wear pajamas.
Well, I think they were saying right now, and come on, maybe we're right this second, we just cleaned up, okay? So maybe if we added that 40% to the literally took them off a minute ago, the numbers would be better, okay? Oh gosh, yeah, well, that is true. Okay, so I think they do merit a trick because they did actually give us some good numbers there. John, what have you got for us? If you got a trick in your pocket to tell us what we could get for.
I think what Jaki said is spot on. One of the simplest things to do and the most effective things to do is think cross-industry, okay? So when we were at a period of overwhelmed with work and everyone starts panicking and everyone starts going, whoa, 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 we'll never do this, these clients with crazy deadlines, everything like that. By simply looking at an A&E department and how they deal with casualties, if you look at, you know, special forces in the field of operation when things come up, how they methodically and calmly get through things. So what it is by looking at other industries, you can learn the way that they deal things or get someone to come in and do a speech. I mean, we, a couple of years ago, employed an ex-British Special Forces operative in our team, and he became head of business development. Now, the fact that, the fact that you know, he was a very good-looking young man, and all our female clients loved him, and all our male clients wanted to be him, and he was very effective. What that did, though, he brought a reality to our business, a creative business, and was brilliant. And I think that creativity can be about doing things differently or thinking about things differently that, as I say, aren't about spontaneous ideas. So I would always look at other industries from there. The one word that we always look for people is being curious. And I think a lot of creativity starts by being curious. You're curious about something. You know, it could be watching one of these underwater wildlife programs, and you see these crazy creatures that from the deep that have only been found in the last sort of decade. And you think, oh, that looks like a character from Star Wars that's been created. And you start seeing how inspiration round about you can lead to other things. You know what I mean? Like the texture on a fish or a pattern on something could be made into a fabric or a pattern for a brand or a company. So for me, it's really about just being curious about things and trying to find things and then work out how else you could maybe use them, as opposed to that, like you know, just sort of sitting there with a blank piece of paper, because it's hard. Now we have a trained creative team, and I know it seems crazy, a trained creative team, but we have to get them to think in a certain way, but allow them to be obviously uniquely creative at the same time. Because there's no point in just being spontaneously creative. It's pointless if it doesn't. It's not what the client wants. We are commercial, so it has to be relevant to a client's need. And that problem solving isn't about a new identity or a new color necessarily. It could be, again, a new process or a new way or another business to look at from that perspective. So that's what we would do. I mean, what's really quite interesting, you could probably online get some some pictures that you look at, and it might have 2 or 3 meanings. And that's a good way, even amongst friends or your own colleagues, to look at something and what do you see in it? And then we see certain things, but then you start digging deeper, and then it starts becoming richer and enriching. And I've always felt that one of the best things about creativity is collaboration. And funnily enough, the future is going to be more collaborative than ever. The millennials they cooperate in all different ways. The whole philosophy is about working in ecosystems. So that sharing of ideas spark into other ideas. So I would actively encourage, people to talk to their friends or their colleagues to try and to create brainstorming ideas. It does work.
Totally true. And you just sometimes just to ask for, sometimes even for help. So what do you think of this? What should I do about this? What should I do next? But
yeah.
I'm sure Megan has something. Yeah, go ahead, Megan. You might have something to say about that. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I mean, just because, when I hear people like, I've worked with Jaki for so many years, and, she's a classic person. She says she's not creative, but to me, she's totally creative because she has so many great ideas. And so I think with Jaki, her perception of creativity is, maybe she can't pick up a pencil and draw and do, like a Picasso painting or whatever. So in response to the question that the person is asked, which is maybe because they're wanting to know how they can become more creative, I actually think that, none of us are born creative. That's what I believe. We're all born with the right brain, which is our creative side of the brain. And so I think that like any skill, creativity can be learned. It's a learnt skill. And I think knowledge gives birth to creativity, because the more you know, to the points about John and Jaki, about different industries, about different domains, the more creative you can become. And so for me, I think it's about, if somebody said, okay, well, what's your how-to guide? How can I actually get more creative? That's what I did personally. I wasn't born creative. I can't draw, I can't paint, I can't do any of the artistic side of creativity, but I still consider myself creative because, as I mentioned earlier, I think creativity is about being able to come up with, solutions to different problems in a way that you can maximize the opportunities from those. So the point about all that is, I think for the person, if they're looking for ways to become more creative, my personal advice would be, just read more, read different sorts of material, watch podcasts and webinars of people that you find very inspiring. If you look at the great leaders of the time, the army generals, the people that started businesses and scaled them from nothing, poor backgrounds, the one thing they will admit is that they're not creative in their head. So creativity also, however you define it, doesn't necessarily translate to success. A lot of the people that are hugely successful in the way we define success admit that they're not creative. So I think it's about acquiring knowledge personally, because I think you can train yourself to be creative through knowledge.
One of the things that, just to give a very concrete example, which illustrates both John's point and Megan's point, interestingly. Our CEO at Global Village launched a challenge, and I'm saying this also because I noticed the second question is, how can you encourage creativity in a bureaucratic environment, but really in any environment. He launched a challenge for the entire workforce, and he asked everyone to create 25 ideas for the 25th anniversary of Global Village, which is this year. And he gave a whole bunch of constraints. So basically there was 5 leaders, and it was absolutely cross function. So it wasn't just marketing people. There were operations people in there. There were finance people. There was purchasing people. There was operations people. So really across the whole gamut, entertainment people. And there were five we don't call it brainstorm anymore, do we? Thought showers is the new politically correct term, in case anyone was wondering. So thought showers, 5 thought showers were organized. And there was just a massive brainstorm or a massive dump of a whole bunch of ideas. And then the thought leaders had to present this to a WOW council, and every idea had to be realizable in 100 days. So all of that kind of cramming and the challenge and the pushing created a number of great ideas, really. And that's the sort of kind of practical way of pushing people who are perhaps not creative to become creative because they don't have a choice.
So that's the master.
It is the master wisdom. 24, and that will come out of conscience.
Oh, I think we've lost John. There you are, John.
Oh, sorry, I had the air conditioning issues.
Oh,
Oops.
that would be bad.
Yeah,
Bad.
exactly.
Trust me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well,
So that's just a practical solution, perhaps, for the person who was asking about, you know, what's something you can do concretely.
And that's a great. I think, Jackie, exactly. I think doing that and getting everyone to sort of think about an idea to make things better or that. It's amazing what you'll find out and who in the office will come up with the really cool ideas. And it might not be who you think.
Exactly. I was going to say exactly that, because sometimes you might say, okay, this is normally the person that does such and such. But if you put the question out to everyone, you'll be like, you'll be dumbfounded. You're going, oh my goodness, didn't even think of that way, you know, whatever. And it is actually, it's air in the balloon of the person who that thought came from. You're going, way to go. Thank you so much for giving me that thought idea to develop something else. You know, it is the collaboration, the team collaborating together. It's not a one man show. So get other people out there. We're coming closer and closer, unfortunately, to our time slot to finish up. So, but there were a couple of other questions there, or like maybe we can actually have people write you and think. But is there any, Megan? Did you see any of the other questions you wanted to touch on, or?
No,
I'm actually hoping you're coming back, because girls and boys, this is something that we should develop literally. So we hope to see you in the very near future in another webinar here. Go ahead.
Somebody's asked about the UN report, which I sourced, and it's the UN World Tourism Report that they can Google and find 2020, UN World Tourism Report 2020. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, and tourism is quite the important facet right now, especially too here, we're coming forward to 2020. Can I I want to ask just one more question, if you don't, because why is creativity so important to you? I don't know whether, can I put that up to Jackie again too? Sorry, I'm going to put it out to you, but I'd like you to all touch on that. So we're working with you, Jackie, just straight off the block here. Why is creativity so important?
Listen, I think that for all the reasons that we've been talking about throughout this webinar, I think that in order to, the world is so changing so fundamentally quickly. Before COVID, never mind COVID, let's put COVID aside. The changes in the world are so the world is so dynamic that if you're not agile and you're not creative, you're just not going to keep up. And that's why I think creativity is so vitally important and really the only solution to any of the world's problems. Creativity is going to be the only thing that helps us get a vaccine for COVID, for a start. And then there are other problems that we've kind of put by the wayside because COVID is so front of mind. But if you think about the fact that there's 8 billion people on the planet right now. And, according to a lot of people, if people consume like an American, there's only enough sort of planet to support 1.2 billion people. Well, that's a pretty big problem. So if you're not going to have the possibility of thinking of creative solutions, the world's just not going to survive. So it's that important to me. And I really think that, honestly, if companies and marketers and brands are not creative right now, and you have to be brave and you have to be prepared to fail in order to be creative. I had an amazing, I was very lucky, I worked for a guy called Steve Burke, at Disney, and he invented the Disney stores. So he was phenomenal. He was kind of an entrepreneur at Disney. And he used to say to us all the time, if you haven't failed yet this year, you haven't been working hard enough. And that was kind of his mantra. And I think that that's something that we need to be very aware of. And I think moving forward, especially after COVID, because nobody could possibly have imagined this, except if you're Bill Gates, he did, but everybody else didn't. And I think that moving forward, piloting, testing, scenario planning, all of those things that are really creative tools are going to be a fundamental part of who we are. It's not going to be good enough to do a 5-year plan anymore. And so we're going to have to work in a very, very different way in order to deal with the world problems. And that's why, for me, creativity is so important, and why every single person on the planet needs to get with the program and say, yes, I am creative. Now, how do I use it?
Fabulous. Well, you'd be so happy to know that I've been working like the Dickens. So you have no idea how many times I've failed this year. So I really think that's a really important facet, because we do have to look that not all of the ideas pan through 100%, but they could be the basis for some future idea that will pan through. Mm-hmm. So I think we're going to work it backwards. We're going to go actually to Megan and now and see if she can touch on that. And we're going to leave, I don't want to say the best for last, but we're going to leave John. We're going to leave John with the closing comment.
Thank you.
Last. I like it.
Yeah, no. We started.
Compliment, Jaki.
Yeah,
really. No, we're just trying to make him. We're just trying to, he started this ball game. We'll let him end it, okay? Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so for me, I think that creativity is important because it inspires us, it motivates us, it uplifts us, it drives us. It provides us with innovation to bring better products and services to market. It drives economies, it drives nations, it's the growth engine behind everything. It drives humanity, and without creativity, we have no innovation. Without creativity and innovation, we don't progress. We don't progress our countries, we don't progress humanity. And so I think creativity it's an innate need that we all have for evolution. In essence, it enables us to evolve. So over to the best to last, John.
Brash to last.
I'm going to edit that part out of the video because my girlfriend Megan is not going to let me let that down.
No, again, what Jaki and Megan have said, I totally agree with. I think that the world's changed, right? And it probably needed this to happen. I know it seems crazy, but whether it's population, whether it's demographics, whatever it is, it wasn't sustainable. And I think it's been a long time coming with the way that the rise of technology that's been happening. And I think now this is a leap that's going to be the biggest leap since probably the Second World War on life and how we lead our lives. And you have post-war children, pre-war children, you're now going to have this moving forward. So I think as well, when we talked about millennials as well, that they are a far more creative thinking. They've been trained to think. They don't have the rules that we had growing up about what you should do, what we shouldn't do. So you've got a younger generation that's bursting, and that's where creativity is going to change the world, because it has to. As you say, it's research, medicine, science, everything, art, innovation, products. So I think that I would love a world and a future where creativity is actually put up at the point it should be in world standing and in business. I think there's a really interesting fact that typical boards of directors that were traditional, I think now only 35% of a makeup of a PLC board is a traditional board member, which is finance, economy. They're now bringing in more innovative people who are creative people into these boards to help them adapt to the future, to help them think about new ways forward, because it's all about recreation. It's about repurposing, reinventing, and that's the only way that we're going to be able to move the world forward and business forward.
Amazing. Well, I think that has left us with more than food for thought. I would love to, because this is videotaped, so I'm going to put it out there. I would love to have you all back, and maybe we could actually somehow create a mini creativity workshop. You keep that on your back burners, okay? Because I sometimes, that's all it is. You need to stimulate someone else to make some creative decisions for all of us, for all mankind. If you'd like to mention anything else, ladies and gentlemen, this would be a fantastic time. We will be putting your contacts and things on the follow-up email with this. So we are hoping that if people would like to get a hold of you, that they have any other questions. We've got some people saying thank you along the way here, and they were really appreciative of this type of a format. It actually, again, shortened the social distancing, the closing the gap, and that's what we're trying to do. Because and I do, by the way, I love Jaki. I love your background because you are creative. There's all this energy coming from you. Like, I was like, wow. So I think you are a fake named creative. We got to find a proper name for that one day. But so this is yes. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. We are so happy because our members and friends are really looking to all aspects. We also have the Phoenix series, which we're doing to help people as well. So I hope to see you soon. We will talk to you and I, all of us together, and regarding some more information on this. But I think we could do not like the Rambo series where we have 10 of them or 12 of them. We don't want Rambo, the Vendetta Rambo series, but it would be lovely to, they're all saying looking forward for more. See, they want more of you. These people out here have great taste. So John, Jaki, and Megan, thank you for enriching our lives, okay? And for taking some of this is, they all love the idea of a workshop too. Sorry, it's all popping up here, so I'm just reading their comments. So thank you for taking time out. This is a really insightful, even Eric, thank you, Eric, for your comments. And thank you for taking your time out. This has been really, really important to everyone. So have a good day. Stay safe. I will see you soon. Tomorrow I'm going to be just pajamas on the bottom. Maybe that's too much information, but you got it. Okay. Take good care of yourselves. Okay. Ciao. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks,
See you
Diana. Thanks,
soon.
Megan.